And Stephanie, let's just cut to the chase. Why are so many people miserable when we've never had more ways to, let's say, optimize happiness?
I think because we have lost sight of the fact that happiness comes from our relationships. As you mentioned in your introduction, we are deeply disconnected from one another, and connection is the pathway to happiness. And unfortunately, this sort of truth has been really lost in the ways in which our society has warped this idea that happiness comes from, as you said, optimizing yourselves, pursuing more and more, getting certain possessions or achievements. And I think that in order for us to find our way out of this moment, we need to remember that true happiness comes from being connected to other people.
We talk about old happy versus new happy, or you do in your book. Is it just another way of saying that we've been doing it wrong all along?
It's, old happy is my term to try to collect a bunch of different ideas together into one to make it easier to talk about. And essentially, old happy teaches us that happiness is something that we get through perfecting ourselves, achieving more and more, and isolating ourselves from other people. And these messages are incredibly pervasive and have been conditioned into us through things like institutions and the media and our relationships with our families. And ultimately, what I'm striving to help people to do is realize that old happy doesn't work. We have reams and reams of scientific data that show that these pursuits don't make us feel good. They actually make us feel bad. And ultimately, they end up contributing to a lot of the bigger problems that our society is facing as well.
Ray, on the phone, and some others, we're going to go to you in just a minute. We'll take some calls here. Stephanie Harrison, obviously, people really want to have a glass of cool water in a parched desert of desperation. And I want to make sure that everyone's voices gets heard. We're living in different times. I mean, even a month ago, it was the old world. It was the old way. It was just, let's fine tune it. We still would go to Malibu. We still would spend $300 on a special yoga suit so we could meditate with our palms up to catch the proper vortices, as they are known to spin specifically in Malibu and other places, maybe Sedona, Arizona. I'm being sarcastic, but practical at the same time. This is what many of us believe. That's the old happy. That is the old way of finding it. We're now in a whole new thing of real disruption, where gravity may or may not be real, according to fill in the blank. And finding happiness, security, stability with each other is kind of the new goal, not just me feeling self-soothing. I'm going to self-soothe today. But I have to soothe my neighbors, or if they are unsoothed, I am never going to be soothed.
That's so beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. I think in the conversation that we've had as a society about self-care, we have forgotten that the best form of self-care is through caring for other people and our connections. And as you said, if we allow other people to be suffering, to be experiencing profound harm to their lives, to their own well-being, how can we say that we are happy and well on the inside? We can't permit these things to happen while also pursuing our own selfish pleasures. The two things are just fundamentally at odds. And so that doesn't mean that we can't do things that make us feel good or that bring us joy, or, have the occasional bubble bath or spa day or whatever it is that helps you to feel like you're strong and capable. But we have to bring back the focus that we are a collective. We are deeply dependent upon one another, and we need each other. And that is the only way that we'll be able to really find the happiness that I think deep down all of us are searching for.
We're talking right now to Stephanie Harrison. She is creator of The New Happy, with a master's degree in positive psychology from Penn, written for the Harvard Business Review, been featured in the New York Times and Forbes, even testified before the government on happiness, back when the government might have been interested in such a topic. Her new book, New Happy, has already become an international bestseller. Today, here to talk to us about why we think everything we know about happiness is wrong, especially now, and helping others might be the secret to saving each other. Service, something that this country was founded on and something that we're looking to return to. All that in service of my show last week, where we found out that really people need to reconnect with each other and have community and fellowship. The surprising key to joy, how helping others boosts personal happiness. Like the way to get self-esteem is by doing esteemable things. For example, and you're not supposed to tell people this. You do it in top secret. When I go into Ralph's, for instance, which is one of the big grocery store chains here, and I see an older woman trying to load her groceries from the cart into her trunk, it's hard. It's difficult. I'll run up joyously like a spaniel wagging my tail, throw the groceries in her trunk, wish her a great day, and leave. I know she feels better. I feel great for like 3 hours, but I can't tell anybody. That's the key. I can't get credit for it. And it changes you.
It really does. There's so much science to back that up, that acts of kindness, of course, they benefit, the lady who you're helping, the person who you're showing up for, but they also end up benefiting the giver, and sometimes even more than the receiver. And so that description, your story, what scientists have discovered is that not only do you feel better for up to 4 weeks after doing an act of kindness, but it's something that persists, and it helps you to change your identity into somebody who feels like they are worthy and they matter. And so much of this mental health crisis that we're experiencing in this country is, I believe, a result of people feeling like they don't have this deep sense of self-worth, that they're not able to contribute to lives in a meaningful way. And we don't have to start out by changing the world. We can just start out by trying to change somebody else's day, and we get the benefits that we're looking for.
Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. We're live streaming right now on Substack. If you are smart and have checked that out, what a great place to watch this along with YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination, you car driver, you. You can also easily find us always at kpfk.net. Just go to kpfk.net. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. We're talking right now to Stephanie Harrison, best-selling author, and we're looking at ways to cope in the complicated and uncertain times in which we live. Notice how I even have to put that in code. I would love to really lay it out, but I'm not gonna. I think we all kind of get it right now. That's the other problem, is normally if you go to a psychotherapist, they ask you to be specific and identify the real problem. But because we're so divided, to identify the real problem might put you on the enemies list of your neighbor. And we have to be mindful of that too, don't we?
Yeah. And this division that we're experiencing, we're sort of, I think that in many ways we don't realize how we're pulling ourselves apart from people, and how the more that we can come back to honoring our shared humanity and recognizing that all of us want to be happy, all of us want to experience the ability to have a good life, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should be celebrating our neighbors for what they do and their unique contributions to the world, and we should be trying to make the world safe for everybody to be able to experience those things.
Stephanie Harrison, you say that helping others is the key to joy. You mentioned the science behind that. How does that science compare to, say, retail therapy, which a lot of people, they do believe it works?
I would say that if you think about it like if you imagine a line graph, the spike of gratification that might ensue after handing over your credit card to buy something, sure, it might boost up really, really quickly, but it falls just as rapidly and it does not persist. Whereas if you're helping somebody, it's much more of a steady climb that ultimately gets you up higher and then keeps you there. So sure, buying something, maybe in the moment, it gives you that quick hit of getting something you want, but we are so adaptable to any of our possessions or our achievements. And ultimately, that hedonistic high wears off very, very rapidly. And it's not a good or sustainable pathway to true happiness.
I have to admit, burnout, I have a severe version of it. It's like, I feel like Sisyphus, not syphilis, but Sisyphus, pushing that boulder up the hill, we'd see you smile, it's video, only to have that boulder roll back down and keep pushing it back up. I am one of hundreds of millions here, but I just happen to have the microphone, so I'm saying it. Burnout, practically a badge of honor in America. In other words, you worked hard and you're burnout. I'm burnout for 1,000 other reasons, like everyone else. What would be one simple shift that any of us can make today to start feeling better?
It's such a great question. And you're right. There are so many millions of people who are suffering from burnout. One of the things I think that people don't necessarily know about burnout is that one of the key components of it is cynicism. So believing that other people are bad, or that the future is irredeemably flawed, there's no hope for us. And so one of the things we can do to address our burnout, even if we can't maybe change our circumstances, is to try to cultivate a better sense of optimism, a sense of care, a sense of connection, a sense of looking for the good in other people. And when we do that, that can help to bolster us to both make the choices that work for us, but also to continue showing up for our communities in these difficult times.
Stephanie Harrison, I want to ask you a relevant question for today's times. And thank you. You're like so awesome, jumping back with really excellent, well-researched answers, which is why we have you on and not Mildred, who I could go find at Ralph's, who is very grateful for the groceries, but may not have any idea about this. If you had to give a TED Talk to a room full of billionaires, what would you tell them about the link between money and happiness?
I love that question. If only, if I could do that, it would be a dream come true. I would try to tell them that their hoarding of wealth is not only harming millions, billions of other people, but it's also harming themselves. And I would use the research to convince them that this pursuit is not only flawed, but it's also contributing to our broken world, and that there are so many better things that they can do rather than devote themselves to simply amassing more and more. And principally, they could be focusing on giving more and more.
We have some callers here at 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-KPFK. And I think we have Ray to ask you a question. Ray, you're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Oh, hi. I want to wish everyone a happy day and a good morning. I wanted to express the fact that shows like yours are absolutely necessary in times like these, and it's really appreciated by everyone. I had a suggestion. You asked for suggestions last week, and you said you would take them today. So I would like to suggest that you invite these administrators, these government administrators, to explain on your show exactly what they're doing and to describe exactly what they have in mind, and in simple terms, explain their policies, their practices, and their decisions. And I would suggest that you challenge these people and invite them on the show.
Okay. Well, I love the idea. If they say yes, you know I will do it. And I appreciate your call, Ray. I think Ray speaks to the news cycle, basically a 24/7 anxiety machine. Really, we've all watched the news. We all watched it obsessively, C-SPAN, whatever, for years and years. But 3 minutes of it puts me into a backspin like crazy. How, Stephanie Harrison, do we cultivate real joy when the world, as Ray just pointed out, feels like it's absolutely on fire?
I want to acknowledge just how difficult it is in this situation that we are all in. And Ray, I absolutely love your idea, by the way. I think that there are a couple different practices and tools we can use. You know, the news is going to put us into a fight or flight state pretty quickly with everything going on right now. So I really recommend trying to limit your news consumption, or to engage in news sources like your show, Cary, that are devoted to helping people to feel more connected, not trying to stem them into outrage. The second thing we can do is to remember that we're not supposed to deal with this by ourselves. We're supposed to deal with it through connection. And that means coming together, having conversations, building those meaningful communities that support each other. And then finally, it's about devoting ourselves to a greater purpose. What can we do? You know, none of us are going to be able to save the country or the world by ourselves, but we can all do our small part to make a difference. We can all show up and try to support other people who are struggling and try to make a difference here. And if we can do each of those things, they can provide that level of support that allows us to not only cope, but ultimately even thrive.
Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. Talking to Stephanie Harrison, whose surname is so awesome I can even pronounce it. She happens to be the creator of the new Happy got a master's degree in positive psychology from Penn, written for the Harvard Business Review, been featured in the New York Times, been featured in Forbes, even testified before the government on happiness, has a new book called New Happy. And you testified before Congress on happiness. I mean, this is just, I don't know whether to smile or clutch the pearls that I'm not wearing, but did they actually listen, or were they just giving tax breaks?
It was actually for the government of California specifically. So looking at their commission on happiness, and they did listen. They were very engaged and very supportive. I think that if I was to be speaking in front of Congress, especially right now, we'd be having a very different conversation. And ultimately, there is so much misinformation out there about happiness. So many people who have been led astray thinking that power or domination or the the pursuit of wealth and status are going to make you happy. And unfortunately, a lot of that seems to be playing out in many ways in the public sphere now too.
Let's go next to Carlos in Carson. You're on the Cary Harrison Files with Stephanie Harrison and me, Cary Harrison.
Good morning, both Harrisons. Listen, I can identify with what Stephanie's saying about randomly giving, because that enhances your humanity and your sense of self-worth. I love to go to Tijuana to the border and give money to all these poor kids begging on the street and all those people distributing clothes. And particularly, I go over there to contribute money for people who have cancer and cannot afford insurance, surgery, things like that. And, that gives me a great sense of humanity, a sense of being, and a reason for living. At my age, sometimes you need reasons for living, But I got a question for Stephanie. You mentioned the collective, being part of the collective. Now, doesn't that take away from your sense of being an individual? Like, I look at our DEI policies, diversity, inclusion, and all this, but that also merges you and you become part of the big collective. And that to me, that entails in a way a sense of loosening your cultural identity, your traditions, things like that, when you just submerge to the collective. I mean, I'm grappling with that question. What do you say?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carlos, for your call. Good one, Stephanie.
It's a really great question, Carlos. And first of all, thank you so much for being the person you are who shows up to give and make a difference in people's lives. We need more people like you. And I had goosebumps listening to you talk about it. So thank you so much. I think that when we think about the collective is at its strongest when every individual has a deep sense of who they uniquely are. And that is comprised of so many different elements, from their cultural heritage to their background, to the life experiences they've had, to their unique talents. And the more that we actually find a use in the collective for our individual selves, the more our individuality actually strengthens, while at the same time building greater connectedness to other people. So it's a little bit of a paradox, but the more that we devote ourselves to doing good in the world in this way, the more we actually build a stronger sense of individual self. And so I think, Carlos, it's totally natural to struggle with that because it feels like they're at odds. But in fact, the two things are mutually supportive of one another. So as you give, you become more of you, Carlos, and then that equips you to give even more.
I've got a unique vacation idea for you that's right here in the United States. If you're ready for a vacation that's fun and downright affordable, listen up. It's driving distance for many of you, so no planes, no airline delays, no hassles. It's Branson, Missouri, the entertainment capital of the Midwest. Live music for everyone. Branson has 3 beautiful, enormous lakes, water attractions, live shows, great food, and tons of entertainment. It's a perfect vacation for you and your family, or if you're retired and you want to have a great time. And you can stay in Branson for as low as $99 a night. Please understand, this is not a timeshare offer. It's a real vacation for as little as $99 a night. We've got a free vacation guide we want to send you right now. All you have to do is call for complete details. Get your free Branson, Missouri guide right now by calling this number.
Call 855-384-6182. That's 855-384-6182. Again, 855-384-6182.
Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to look at more tools and tips on how to calm our body, our mind, our spirit, raise our immune system during these challenging times. We're going to explore research findings culled from scientific evidence, intuitive information, and what's known as divine connection, which makes our next guest coming up a highly respected speaker, lecturer, and medical consultant worldwide. And that's coming up in about 5 minutes. Right now, we're talking to Stephanie Harrison, creator of The New Happy, master's degree in positive psychology from Penn, written for the Harvard Business Review, been featured in the New York Times and Forbes, testified before the previous government on happiness when there was the potential for such a thing. God, here I am. Like, what do I do? And you've already told me what to do, but do I need an intervention? What is the intervention that me and others need to snap out of this in the middle of a day?
You don't need an intervention. You're doing everything right. You are speaking how you're feeling, and you're giving voice to people who feel the same way. So you're actually doing a profound service.
So you have bad days, Stephanie Harrison. And when you do, what's your go-to move when happiness might feel a little out of reach?
Not to sort of say the same thing over and over again, but my little trick is that when I'm having a bad day, I go out and try and help somebody else who's having a worse day than me. And it always works. It has never failed me, at least to bring me back to myself, and most of the time to help me find a sense of joy and a sense of peace. I think too often it's really easy when you're having a bad day to sort of spiral into yourself and get caught in ruminating thoughts or anxiety or all that kind of stuff. And looking outside of ourselves is a way to really quickly break that cycle.
I do love the idea of ruminating thoughts, a ruminant, like a cow, where you chew it, swallow it, throw it back up in your mouth, chew it again, swallow it, repeat, ruminating thoughts. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's
oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Well, I want to thank you, and thank you for writing this marvelous book. It is the soothing emollient to these particularly troubled times in which we live. And if we're not putting that flashlight out on the path of at least hope and promise, and somebody's got your back, that's really what this is. Somebody's got your back. If I have my neighbor's back, I promise you, they will give me that cup of sugar when I want it. You get what you give. Golden rule. I don't know what it is. Maybe we forgot about it, but this is the time when really practicing it is going to matter. And I appreciate your having put this together in a go-to manual for all of us.
Thank you so much. You're so kind, and it's been such a joy to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for such a good interview. And I know this is one of your better ones. You can write that down. Thank you so much. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. That was Stephanie Harrison. Her new book is called New Happy. Coming up, like I said, tools and tips on how to calm our body, our mind, our spirit, raise our immune system during these challenging times. We're going to explore the research findings culled from scientific evidence, intuitive information, and divine connection, which makes our next guest a highly respected speaker. Some of you may have heard of him. He's kind of a big deal in this world. He's a lecturer, a medical consultant worldwide, and that's coming up in just a tick.
Do you have diabetes? If you have insurance, you may qualify for a new continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends, spend more time in range, lower your A1C, and share important data with loved ones and caregivers. Most importantly, a continuous glucose monitor allows you to fully take charge of your health. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you take insulin, you may qualify for a CGM today. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances cover continuous glucose monitors, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call VeraMed Health now.
Call 855-996-9708. Call now.